Welcome to the Snowbirds Expat Radio Podcast, powered by the Snowbird US Day Tracker app. I'm your host, Gerry Scott, and my goal is to give you answers to your cross-border questions, to ease the stress of a cross-border move or extended trip, and to keep you up to date on all you need to know with cross-border rules and regulations. Now let's get on with the show.
Gerry Scott is your regular host, but get ready to flip the script. Today, I'll be your host, and I'm putting Gerry in the hot seat. I'm Laura Garfield, co-founder of Decanter, and my team produces this very podcast for you snowbirds out there. And in this episode, I'm taking control of the mic, and Gerry gets to answer all the questions because, drum roll, please, Gerry's brand new book was just released. Canadians heading south for the winters. What you don't know will hurt you. Congratulations, Gerry.
Well, thanks, Laura. It's going to be a little interesting being the guest. It feels kind of funny to be self-promotional on your own podcast, but anyhow, I'm excited. You've been a part of this since the very beginning when we came up with the app, and then we came up with the podcast, and then you producing the podcast, and now as we went further down the road, we agreed, hey, let's write this book/manual. There we are, and it really should be a manual that almost comes with the dishwasher and the stove and the microwave that locks and you can't find that button to get your stuff out of it. It really is a guide. But I'll tell you what, I am in the hot seat. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Well, now, as a listener of the Snowbirds Expat Radio Podcast, you're used to hearing Gerry pry useful tips out of cross-border experts like lawyers and accountants. Today, Gerry is going to talk about the book that is a one-stop guide to all the Snowbirds questions. They're not scattered through multiple episodes of the podcast. They are all in one place. And this book is packed with info on immigration, tax, healthcare, residency rules. We have a lot to cover, Gerry. Let's get started. So tell me, was there a moment when you realized people were still getting tripped up by the same misunderstandings over and over?
Yeah, every day for the last 8 years. It's amazing, it really is confusing for snowbirds out there. It's so complex, and all we want to do is escape the winter, fly south, hang out with our other snowbirds, enjoy the weather, and but it's confusing, very, very confusing, and it's an ongoing thing. And I hope this book will really kind of break it down, try and keep it as simple as we can. We can't keep it too simple because, as mentioned, taxation, foreign country, healthcare in a foreign country, and of course, all the stuff that's going on around us at all times when we're down south.
There's a lot of nuances, and it kind of goes beyond a Google search or a ChatGPT search. There's a lot of information packed in the book. What gap did you feel this book needed to fill for Canadian snowbirds? Is there something like this out there for them?
As you mentioned, Chat, GPT, Google, all these things just add to the confusion. Because I think what you're looking for, it's like when you're having a discussion with somebody, you're asking the questions and you're only looking for one answer. You're looking for the answer that's going to satisfy you so you can kind of move on and away you go and live your life down south as best as you can. But yeah, there's so many gaps. It is confusing. And I think the whole idea to fill in the gaps was to really give you a little bit more of an understanding of what we're dealing with. And before I get too far into all the questions, I think what we do, Laura, is we take them all and we put them together, maybe immigration, tax. That's the big thing out there. Immigration is different than tax, and tax is different than immigration. But the rules confuse us because we put it all into the pot, we stir it up, and we hope we have our answers, but it doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. They don't communicate. Tax and immigration do not communicate.
I could see going to this book with looking for a specific answer and realizing there was a lot more I needed to know. Because typically, when you're snowbirding, you don't put a lot of thought into it in advance. You're thinking warm weather, thinking, I'm going to get out of here, and then I'll come back until you run into some sort of problem. And that's your lane, right?
Yeah, and I think what's happened is that these snowbirds, these are not young 20-year-old, 30-year-old people that are experiencing the Southern lifestyle for the very first time. They've done it for 30 years, 40 years. Let's say they've done it for 30 years. Let's say the average snowbird starts going down south, maybe late 40s, early 50s, and they'll continue that migration south for the next 20, 25 years. And they get so comfortable with it. But at the same time, when I guess I always picture this bird and all these geese or these ducks flying south. They're all flying together. And, they're all following each other. And they really don't know, okay, I'm assuming we're flying south. I'm assuming that the guy at the front or the bird at the front knows what's going on. He knows all the rules. And he's not looking behind. He's just flying forward. And every snowbird Canadian does the same thing. We're flying down south, and that's it. And I think we're so busy thinking about it, so busy preparing for the trip, that we're just thinking about, can I make that tea time on Monday when I arrive on Saturday? That's really the mindset of a snowbird.
So tell me, what are some of the biggest assumptions snowbirds make that can get them into trouble?
Well, I've always done it this way. That's really what it comes down to. I've done it this way, and the family that lives beside me down south, who's from Vancouver, and we're the other family's from Toronto. Well, if it's good enough for them, we're doing the same thing as them, so we must be on side. So I think the confusion of everybody doing the same thing, it's all great until it isn't great. And I think the idea of this book is, it's not your romance novel that you need to start in chapter 1 and kind of follow it. And it doesn't work that way. I think what we've done is we've taken the 10 chapters, the 10 most important things for snowbirds, and get to know each and every subject. May it be immigration, may it be a 30-day myth that if you enter United States and then you go home for 30 days, will the border crossing agents on the U.S. side issue another I-94 for us? And then I can start that 6-month clock over again. It's so confusing. And I think even when I put this book together, and even, we're snowbirds. We live in Vancouver, and we travel back and forth to Maui throughout the year. Now, I did take it one step further. I didn't want to get myself in trouble with immigration. So I went through the entire process of getting the E2 visa. And we'll cover that in the next book that we have coming out, which is all those Canadians heading north, or maybe Canadians want to move to United States on a more permanent basis. So even going through that experience myself, there's still intimidation when you go across the border. And you hear about these stories, and we always hear about the negative things, and there is a lot going on in this world nowadays. So I think borders, in all fairness to both sides, we have to be strict on who's crossing and how we allow those people to enjoy our country, maybe Canada, or the American border crossing agents allowing Canadians to enjoy time in the South. It's just ongoing. So the book is designed, read the chapter, and I highly recommend that people start to make notes on the bottom of the page, go back into the podcasts and listen to, if it's on an immigration, write down the immigration lawyer that we had and their contact information. Get familiar with it because you will need these people. And every time I have a phone call with somebody, I used to work Monday to Friday. It was very committed to our craft and what we do on the wealth management side. Then on the weekend, it became a full-time gig of returning phone calls from these snowbirds that were concerned. And, the story was always the same. Put a piece of paper in front of you, immigration on one side of the page, taxation on the other side. And please do not cross the line. If we're talking immigration, put it in the immigration box. If we're talking tax, put it in the tax box. And I think that's what this book is going to do. It's going to kind of define things a little clearer. I'm not trying to turn you into an immigration lawyer. I'm not trying to turn you into a cross-border tax accountant. I'm trying to educate you that this is complex. And that little person's name that you wrote down on the immigration side or the tax side, that's the person you want to reach out to and feel comfortable with, because this is not a do-it-yourself book. This cannot be done on your own.
Sounds like the book might actually free up your weekends from having to answer all those snowbird questions.
It's okay. I mean, I love to be able to help people. So yes, I am hoping for less calls. But more importantly, I guess what we're really hoping for is that, these things take time and commitment and expenses. So I guess we're trying to look at all these acronyms, you know, um, BTB, buy the book, buy the book, self promotion there. But I think this is one of those things with myself being cross-border. I've always carried cross-border books and with me to read on the plane and get educated. So I think you should be able to carry the Bible with you when you're heading down south. And I think you should also carry this Best of a Snowbirds Expat radio podcast focusing on snowbirds heading south.
Well, you alluded to a second book, and I do want to ask a quick question, though we're really focusing on the exciting launch of the new book. But when you set out on this project, you were thinking, I'm going to make one single book, and the first 10 chapters are going to be what ended up being this book, and the second 10 chapters are going to be something else. What made you decide that you really had two books there?
Well, it goes back to I didn't want to confuse people even more. So I think snowbirds have a different set of rules. And why would anybody ever care or even be more confused with all the rules with Canadians returning or expats moving up to Americans moving up to Canada? Why would we want to make it that much more confusing? It wasn't this opportunity to author two books and look at me, I'm this big author that I never ever thought I would be. But I think it was just too much. It was too much content. And I think the first book, the Snowbird book, is about 180 plus pages. And I think the Canadians returning, the Great Return, is about 300 pages. So it's too much. It's too much information. And remember, this stuff is really immigration and tax. You can't put a lovely picture of a waterfall or people standing by the waterfall or taking up some space and breaking it up. It's just really, really rules, and trying to educate you on the severity of if you're offside. What you don't know will hurt you.
So we can think about those migration patterns you talked about. And this one is for the migration south. And the next one is going to be about the migration north.
Exactly. Migration north are coming home because Canadians have had successful careers down in the States. When we're approached by young people, young professionals, and they ask us, should we move down to the States? I always say, you should. I think United States is a wonderful country. I know there's some difficulties between the two countries right now, but I think it will pass. We've always had great relationships with the Americans. But I think that there's a great opportunity for young Canadian professionals to move down there. You have so many advantages of what you can save and tax rates and all these other things. We hear about the negative things and we just say, no, I'm not going. Or my mom and dad don't want me to go. I think there's huge opportunities in the States for Canadians. And we've seen that with healthcare professionals, technology, basically recruiting all these bright Canadian young kids from BC right across Canada down to the States, maybe to Silicon Valley.
Attention, Canadian snowbirds! Want to enjoy your U.S. stay without worrying about immigration windows, tax rules, or accidentally overstaying? Meet Snowbirds U.S. Day Tracker. This mobile app helps you track your days in the U.S., log multi-year trips, and monitor your U.S. tax and visa exposure, all from your phone. It's designed specifically for Canadians traveling south for the winter. Stop guessing, stay compliant. Download Snowbirds US Day Tracker now and get peace of mind on your next cross-border adventure. Visit snowbirdsusdaytracker.com to get the download link, or look for a link in the show description for this episode. Have a plan before you land, and make your time in the sun about living well, not worrying about rules.
I think the biggest thing that I want to stress when we are talking about the snowbirds heading south is the biggest thing that we're looking at right now is the immigration is going to be the really difficult one, because what you've been doing for 30 years, in theory, you have two lives. You're actually going down there not to visit. You're going down there to live. And even if you're not working, you have your home, you have your car, you have all your golf clubs are down there, your bikes are down there, everything you can think of is down there. Well, immigration, now we're finding out, is starting to put together these patterns on you heading south. And are you a visitor, which is a B2, Bravo 2, how snowbirds are basically issued when they enter the country and they get their I-94s. So you have to be really, really careful on what you say when you cross that border. You can't use the W word. You certainly can't use any abbreviation for swear words when you're getting frustrated. So I think we're trying to educate people. And Laura, there's also another trend that's happening out there. We're trying to help these snowbirds is kids nowadays want to travel everywhere. They just don't want to go to Maui. They just don't want to go to Palm Springs or Florida. They want to see the world. So mom and dad, which in our generation, when mom and dad said, "Hey, take our place in Maui, just pay for it. Pay for the fees and we'll will that to you. And you can find out how to pay the taxes and the fees and insurance and all these other things." Well, now these kids don't want to take on mom and dad's place in Hawaii or Florida. So mom and dad this is the first generation we're seeing a lot of moms and dads that are now the grandparents are selling their houses. And it isn't a simple process of just putting a for sale sign on the front yard. It's a taxable cross-border event. And this is the first time we're seeing this happening in huge numbers. And people just need some help making sure that they understand the tax implications. And once again, it's not do it yourself. Here, Gerry's going to give you all the answers, and I'm not an immigration lawyer or a tax accountant, but we're going to educate you and point you the right direction. And I think that's more of a demographic thing than it is maybe a geopolitical risk that people love to hear about and read about and watch on their phones these days. It's really coming down to the demographics of kids say, "No, I want to go to Europe. I want to see."
Yeah, those generational shifts are so interesting and how they impact the cross-border issues. So tell me, because you have looked at this from so many different aspects, from fielding so many questions from snowbirds, from snowbirding yourself, I'm sure you have a treasure chest full of cautionary tales that you have heard some unfortunate things that have happened. Can you give me an example of the consequence of getting one of these cross-border issues wrong?
Well, I think tax is pretty straightforward. We created the Snowbird US Day Tracker app probably about 10 years ago now. And really what it is that, you're just tracking your days over a 3-year formula. And if you exceed 183 days over the 3 years, well, then you have to fill the 8840s and file them each and every year and prove you got closer ties to Canada. That is pretty straightforward. I know a lot of people are hesitant to file any kind of forms with the US when you're Canadian, a Canadian person, but it's in your best interest because you don't want to see yourself become a US tax resident or US resident for tax purposes. So I think we're seeing that. And I don't think it's not a big thing. It's just you could be required to file a Canadian return, like a non-resident return and a Canadian return. And we've got a treaty between the two countries. So there is foreign tax credits that will offset any income that's paid or taxes that are paid, and you can carry forward on your returns, Canadian returns. That one I think is easy to educate people. And I think people are really intelligent about, okay, I need my accountant to help me with this. Cross-border accountant is going to help me and I'll pay the fees and away we go. I think the biggest one that we're seeing, Laura, is the immigration. And immigration, these border crossing agents have discretion. And when people ask me, what are the rules? Well, the rules are discretion. Every situation is different. They look at your history of traveling to the States, and all of a sudden you followed all the rules on immigration. You've received your I-94 and you know when to get out of the country, when you're lawfully allowed to be in the country, and now you need to return home. I think that's the biggest thing is when it comes to discretion, because they don't have to issue 6 months. They can take a look at it and you're heading down with the dog, the cat, the bird cage, and the couch is strapped to the top of the caravan, and they're thinking, well, wait a second here. You're coming down here to live. And I think that's where discretion is the hardest thing that people have to be very, very cautious with. And anything can happen. Anything can happen. You can be denied entry. And there's nothing more stressful. And this could be happening at a land crossing. It could be at the airports. And there's nothing more stressful knowing that you have a tea time on Monday and you're flying down on a Saturday. You've been denied entry, and you've already paid for your tea time. May it be an exclusive club that your friends have set up for you, but it is stressful. And if you get denied entry into the United States, if on the Canadian side, you just can't drive to another border. Maybe take the Buffalo crossing and the Gordie Howe Bridge. You can't all of a sudden try something new and start over. You're denied entry. So this is the part that these are the stories that are really scaring people. And all the media out there, people are asking, am I going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Well, when you get into second level screening, that's when all the questions start. You go across, do the same thing. And now you're in this little room. You don't have your phone. You can't phone a friend, like a good game show. You're in trouble. You're not in trouble, but it's a very intimidating process.
You're making me nervous, Gerry, because we do the land crossings a lot. I have a kid who plays hockey up in BC, and we live in Washington State, and we're going back and forth all the time. And every time we pull up to the border, like, I get nervous. It's kind of, I think it's just like built in. And the idea there is like, what if I say something wrong? What if I, look funny and they decide they're going to flag me? So I think having the answers and understanding in advance certainly takes some of that anxiety out of it. When you wrote the book, did you want the reader to think of this as kind of a go-to reference guide where you dive in and get your question answered, or is the idea to read it cover to cover?
I think what it really is, Laura, it's set up to be it is a reference guide. It really does back up the actual app that Canadians are using. Why should I worry about a 12-month rolling calendar? Why should I worry about how many days? And it says I got to be out of the country the 183 days on the tax perspective. I think what it does is just tries to provide clarity so people really understand it. And once again, we're not trying to turn you into a immigration lawyer or the know-it-all cross-border guru. I think it's just there to really let people educate themselves that these rules exist for these reasons. Now, you brought up a very good. The other thing is that when we get phone calls, people say, "Talk me through second level screening at immigration. Tell me what to say." And our parents raised us well. Know the rules and just be transparent and be honest, but don't disclose all this information like you read the book and you have all the answers. That could be more trouble.
Less is more. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think you just have to be respectful. We're dealing this is an interesting world we live in. And remember, it's not a privilege. I'm sorry, it's not a right to enter the United States as a Canadian. And it's not a right as an American entering Canada. It's a privilege. We've got all these Canadians we need to protect when an American comes up and visits with their son playing hockey. And we need these Canadians to be respected, that when you're going down south, that you know the rules and understand that this it's a privilege. It's not a right to enter the country.
So, if someone is listening and thinking, I have been doing this for years and I probably know all the ropes, what would you say to them?
I would say none of us know the ropes. None of us are familiar because we do go back to that discretion and things can change and the environment changes. I think really what it is, if you have a large investment and you're spending a lot of time on either side of the border, if you're Canadian spending time in the United States or an American coming up to Canada and you've got that investment, I think you just have to realize that there's a lot of stress involved, not only for you, but the spouse you're traveling with. We know that's going to create an argument of whose fault it is and why we're in second level screening. And I told you so. I think the thing is that I think it's about educating people, getting them in the right, because even if you know as much that you think you know, you're still going to have that one day you're going to need to reach out and call an immigration lawyer and get things settled and get things straightened away. It can happen to all of us. And I think it really is just right now. I don't think there's anything out there. I know the app is there might be other apps out there, but you got to remember why we did this in the first place. I've been in this financial service business. I mean, licensed on both sides of the border, as you know, on with FINRA and with the regulators up in Canada here, and we're dealing with this every day. And the fact that these great immigration lawyers and these great cross-border accountants are willing to give us the time and come onto our podcast, it's allowed us to really share that information and really it's about connecting people with the right professionals, that if you do get yourself in a bind, and they used to always say it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that something's going to occur, and it's going to be it's not going to be the most exciting, biggest opportunity of your life when you're in second level screening. It's stressful.
Well, I have my copy, but if someone out there is listening and wants to grab theirs, how do they get it?
Well, the way we're setting it up right now is and there's so much to learn when you go through these books. I mean, writing the book is one thing and putting it together is interesting. You've gone through this experience as well. I think the number one choice is going to be out there is going to be with Amazon. I'm sure that we have to go through this process and have it available in the bookstores if we need to. But we're going to make it really easy for people to be able to reach out there and find out how they can buy the book through Amazon. We're hoping that if the book is a success, and we believe it will be, well, then we can look at things like Audible books and set us up for the next book, which is The Great Canadian Return. That one is really going to be a great book for both Americans heading north or coming home or meeting somebody and marrying somebody and coming up to Canada here. I mean, the numbers are big. I mean, there's 1 million snowbirds within the last couple of years that were heading south. And the amount of Canadians that are returning right now, I mean, who knows what that number is? But cross-border professionals are busy. And if anything, they can reach out to us. And we've always been great on referring people and connecting people to the proper professionals to make sure that this thing goes smoothly as best as it can when you are moving back or you're heading south. So there's a lot.
Well, to make finding the book easy for the million people out there who need it, we are helping you set up a site called snowbirdsheadingsouth.com. Simple as that. Go to snowbirdsheadingsouth.com. You will be led straight to Amazon where you can buy the book, find out more about what's inside the book if you need to before you make the decision. But snowbirdsheadingsouth.com will help you get your hands on this go-to guide. Stay out of trouble. That's the message here. Gerry, there are so many pitfalls for snowballs.
Same thing. They're leaving
Gerry,
because
there
of
are
the
so many-
snowballs.
Gerry, there are so many pitfalls for snowbirds heading south. I'm sure they will very much appreciate all the work you put into writing this valuable guide. And thank you for letting me take control of this interview. It sure was fun.
Well, thank you, and I'm looking forward to. I'm sure we'll do the same thing when the second book comes out, which is it's all written. It's just got to go through compliance and all the proper channels. But I think that book is going to be very, very interesting. This is confusing stuff. Talking about it is. I mean, we've had a lot of fun over the years putting the videos together and all these other things, but I got to tell you, all joking aside, our message is clear. We're just trying to help people.
Love where you're coming from, Gerry, and I look forward to interviewing you for the next book. Remember, snowbirdsheadingsouth.com.
Thank you again for listening to the Snowbird Expat Radio Podcast. The best way you can support the podcast is to forward the episode to a friend, and please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, or leave a comment. Now, before you go, let me leave you with one of my favorite quotes. Be kind to all, the world is small.